You have to let people know what you do. For whatever reason, a lot of people are, I don't know if they're ashamed or they don't want to or whatever reason, but I can go to a lot of agency owners like personal Facebook and learn more about their political positions than I can about what their agency does. And that's a problem. Every piece of information that's available to you or available about you around your business, so people know it and they can then know that when they need whatever you do, it doesn't even have to be agencies necessarily, but that's what we're talking about, is that you're the SEO for dentists agency. Like, make that a common thing that you talk about. You should be proud of that. Like, if you're doing a good job, you should be telling people about it. You have to tie yourself to what you do so much that nobody thinks of anybody else when it comes to that.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of the $1 Million Agency Podcast. I'm excited for our guest today, the founder of Legiit, Chris Walker. He's been in the industry for 12 plus years, hitting it from different angles. Any of you guys that haven't been exposed to Legiit, this is a product that a lot of SEOs rely on. It's a marketplace where you can get vetted SEO and marketing contractors to help you out. Chris, without further ado, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you again.
Yeah, absolutely. We got to hang out a little bit, I guess like 2 weeks ago out at the SEO Spring Training in Arizona.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy our conversations. Our first time we really got to meet was at the Legiit Live event.
Yes.
Which I think was that a year ago or a year and a half?
It was last September. So
September.
Yeah.
Almost a year. And that was cool. Like, you put together an amazing event, met some people that have grown to be my friends, and I love this tribe that you created, and I'm really excited to have you here and kind of share with the audience somebody that's capable of putting something together like this. There's obviously a lot behind it, like
sure.
With not only the event, but with with Legiit. So I'd love to start off and just like tell us who Chris Walker is. What were the steps that led you to where you are now, and where are you now?
Sure. And just before we continue, you mentioned that event. You stepped in and saved us when one of our other speakers canceled and you were like on your deathbed. So I appreciate that.
That was probably the roughest speaking engagement. I feel like I was sweating, not from nervousness, but from a fever while trying to deliver a succinct message,
Well, you did well. So anyway, to answer your question, I think the best place to start is around 2012, 2013. After various things, I worked as a level 1 tech support guy for a real estate development company. Basically the guy that you call and when your password is locked out or something, and he says, turn it off and on again. That was my entire career up to that point. And I hated that job, first of all. And again, I always like to add this, like, some of the people that I worked with there still follow me. I was the problem. They weren't. I feel like I'm like being mean when I say how much I hated that job, but it wasn't because of them. It was because it just wasn't what I wanted. I also had a big pile of credit card debt. At least it felt like a big pile at the time. I would kill to have that much debt now. But relative to what I was making, it was insurmountable. And instead of doing my job, one day I was just browsing the internet and I found a blog post about affiliate marketing, which I'd never heard of at that time, but it sounded intriguing. The guy that wrote the post was somebody who I used to follow, and he was talking about how he was making his living just writing articles and referring traffic. I was like, well, that seems pretty cool. So I started looking into that and reading forums and stuff. And I landed on the Warrior Forum, which I don't know if your audience will know what that is, but it was kind of like where people got their information back then. So I bought a course on there for like $47, which was a stretch for me at the time. And it was called Bring the Fresh by a guy named Kelly Felix. And it was about making money from blogs doing affiliate marketing. I didn't know what I was doing at the time was called SEO, but you were getting traffic from Google search. And I started doing that and did pretty well with it. The blog that I had at the time, it still exists. It doesn't rank or make money anymore, but it was about like streaming services and streaming devices and just using those to get like Amazon affiliate commissions and stuff like that. So it did pretty well because without realizing it, I was like right at the beginning of that trend until October 2013 when the Penguin 2.0 update came out and crushed that, because the way I had been getting my rankings was through a tool called, it's a mass link building tool called Magic Submitter, which I don't know if that still exists or not, but anyway, that went away. But at that point, I tried a few other odds and ends, but at that point I was hooked on this making money from something other than my job thing. So I started doing other stuff, and I bought another course that cost me $1,000, which I had to use PayPal credit to pay for. And that was from Alex Becker. A lot of people probably know who that is. And that was called Source Phoenix. And in that course, I started learning about client SEO and realized that what I had been doing before was called SEO. And so I started doing a little bit of that, taking on local businesses. And I still had my job at this point. So I would just cold email all day again, instead of doing my job. Cold email all day. And when I would get a phone call, I would have to go into the bathroom at work so I could take the call, because obviously I'm not supposed to be doing that while I'm working. And that started doing okay. Still wasn't enough to get out of the job, which at that point, my goal with all of this was to make enough money to quit the job, because I saw the writing on the wall. And, if I kept doing that for 10 years, I'd be exactly where I was in another 10 years, which, it's been more than 10 years now. Shortly after that, Alex Becker launched a marketplace, which no longer exists, but it was kind of a Fiverr type thing, but for SEO. So on a whim, I listed a service on there that I resold from Fiverr, because I didn't even know how to do the thing that I was doing at that point, and didn't think anything would ever come of it. But one day I'm at the gym, and I remember I'm on the elliptical, and I get a PayPal notification for $10. And I'm like, what the heck is this? And I figured it out after a bit that I made a sale on there. And then I made another one and another one and another one. And then an influencer, Gregory Ortiz, who we both know, gave me like a shout out or whatever, and my services took off. I was making hundreds of orders a month. And between that and the client SEO, I'd finally made enough to quit the job. That brings us to August 2016 or so. And then from there, I was doing okay with the freelancing and the SEO. But then that website went, I hope you don't mind if I swear, but the website went to absolute shit. It started crashing, getting hacked, and being unreliable. Well, fortunately, I'd had the foresight, and this is going to dovetail later into what we talk about later, but to start sending my customers over to a Facebook group that I created. So I had an audience built in. So since that site was unreliable and I needed to replace that income, I started selling stuff through my own agency site. Like I just set up like productized services on my site, and that did well, like better than I expected. And since I had made friends with some of the freelancers on that marketplace, they were seeing that, and they were like, can we sell stuff through your site too? I was like, well, all right, maybe I'm onto something here. And around that time, I met somebody who was a customer on that other marketplace that I'd sold a $16 service to. You met him before. His name's Jim. We partnered to launch Legiit. He handled like the tech side of it, and I did everything else at the time anyway. And it was just going to be an extra product for my SEO business, like another way to make a little bit of commission from the people there. And within the first month, it was my biggest revenue stream by far. And that's around early 2018. And for a while, that was great. I mean, it's still always great. But one thing that started frustrating me was people asking me, how is this different than Fiverr? And I would just get pissed off. But I also didn't have an answer to that, like a good answer to that. So we had to really think about who we were and who we wanted to help. And there was two sides to that. We wanted to help business owners rather than everybody, whereas a Fiverr is kind of like Walmart and it appeals to everyone. We wanted to specifically work with businesses, and we wanted to work with freelancers who did high quality work and were willing to make a brand around what they did on there. So we focused our efforts into that. And then we started building in software and tools and live events and things like that into it, and have turned it into I like to say, a fairly successful brand. And it's been almost 8 years now. And that's my story. That's like 12 years and 5 minutes.
Let's go back to this. Now, Legiit has grown a ton since these early days. Can we kind of put some numbers around this? How many freelancers do we have on there? Maybe how many people have taken advantage of the service over the last 8 years or so?
It depends on how you look at it with the freelancers, because there's tens of thousands that have listed services, but that's not a metric for success that we track. And I say that because our goal isn't to have as many freelancers as possible. It's to have the best that can help businesses. So in any given month, there's a few thousand that make a sale, but it's very top heavy, and that's by design. And when I say top heavy, what I mean is the best ones get most of the work.
Right.
And I get a lot of shit for that from aspiring freelancers. Well, beginners and newbies don't have any opportunity on your site. Like, you're right. You don't. I don't want you practicing on my customers. So, that hits some people off, but that's who we want to be. As far as how many businesses, I have no idea. I mean, I could obviously pull that number up, but it's, if I had to guess, probably 100,000, that could be way off in either direction, but
right.
Yeah.
It gives us some context though. This isn't just some little site where you're doing a couple
Right.
like odds and end jobs on the side here, and you are hitting on something that would be a big problem if it weren't true, which is like if most of the jobs weren't going to the best people, then this is going to destroy the brand, right? Like it has to be that way. So what do you guys do on your end to ensure that these like is there testing if somebody wants to be a freelancer on Legiit? How does that work?
So there's different levels to it. First of all, before you even get the opportunity to even see anybody or to get your thing like just approved, there are 66 different points that each service and each freelancer has to have, stuff like thumbnails and proper grammar and formatting and, a service that fits within the things that we want to offer and that PayPal will allow us to offer and things like that. That's like the absolute bare minimum. And a lot of people give up during that. But, and by the way, a funny story on that was when we first like were figuring out that process, my director of support gave me a list and there were 65. I was like, can't we find one more? Like 66 sounds just so much better. So we found one more thing.
One in there.
Yeah. But anyway, that's the bare minimum. Now, once you do that, you still don't show up in categories or in subcategories. You don't show up in search. You have to prove to us that you are going to put in the work and do the effort to earn the honor of us letting our customers see you. So you're not visible until you meet, it's a few different criteria, but the first one of them is you have to go out and earn a sale on your own, promote it through whatever means you want. Like, I mean, I say whatever means, obviously, through marketing, your network, whatever you do, and bring in some business. And then there's a few other criteria, and then you'll be visible in search and in subcategories and stuff like that. So we intentionally made it difficult. And that may sound counterintuitive, but it's how we maintain the quality. And then there's a level above that as well that's called Legit Checked, which is a throwback to a couple of logos ago. We had a check mark in our logo, but basically that's where they have gone another level above it, and they submit like documentation of things that they've done, their qualifications. They have to record a video of them explaining why they should get that, and then a few other hoops that we make them jump through. And then that's like the next level of service as well. And we also have a page for agencies that's similar to that.
I love this. I love this qualification process. It sounds similar to what we've shifted to in our agency for our hiring process, where we're like, hiring is not about who to hire. It's about how can we eliminate people? Like, how can we eliminate as many people? And then those few people that are left are the ones that are going to get interviewed. And then we're going to choose from the best of those. And it kind of sounds like you guys are really having people run through the hoops to get the opportunity to jump in, which is what ensures the quality, right? Similar to what we do in SEO, right? Google is showing the people at the top of the search results are the ones that are getting most of the work. And there's all these hoops that we have to jump through if we're going to be one of those people that shows up at the top. So Chris, you had mentioned you have people, they have to make their first sale. And you talk about, you kind of breezed over this, how in the first month that this became your number one revenue source, and then it's continued to grow and it's turned into something that's, maybe bigger than you thought, or maybe like, hey, we're not done yet. And I knew this was going to be huge. What led to this? How did you gain this visibility? And what are you doing that others aren't that allowed you guys to ramp up like this?
Yeah. And you're right. We have grown. In fact, every single month since we launched has been our best month ever, except for April of 2020, which, you can figure out what happened there. But
about that. Yeah.
I didn't know this is what I was doing at the time, but I mentioned I was working on another marketplace. Well, in my delivery message, I'd be like, hey, here's your thing. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave me a review, all that stuff. And I was like, and while you're there, why don't you join my Superstar SEO Facebook group where I'll do this for you and give you discounts and show you stuff. And I was a complete like afterthought that I had one day. And then people just started like joining it and joining it and joining it. And I would like make posts about what I was doing and make videos. And started making a YouTube channel and just sharing the videos there. No intention of doing any of that. But what I didn't realize what I was doing was building distribution. And that's what a lot of like startups and early businesses do wrong, is they create the product before they create the distribution. But what I was doing was creating a way to reach people. So the day that we like cut the ribbon, metaphorically speaking, cut the ribbon and open the doors, there were people like lined up ready to come in. And that's why we had did that. And I would love to say that I'm such a business genius that that's what I was trying to do, but it was just me just figuring it out as I went along. Now I've realized the power of that and like turned it into something that I do. And we can go into more in that. But before I do, a better example of somebody that I think did this on purpose are people like Mr. Beast or Jake and Logan Paul, whatever you think of them as people. What they've done is they just, for years, their entire thing was just building an audience through their channels. And now they just slap their name on whatever they want and it turns into a profitable business. You know, they sell like candy bars and energy drinks and their boxers and what they can just apply that to whatever. So by building that distribution and that personal brand, they are able to apply that. And I didn't realize that that's what I was doing on a smaller scale, obviously, but that's what I did by having that. And that's one of the reasons I've survived and thrived in marketplaces, which are more common than people realize. And I've watched other people try to either do it their own or emulate us or flat out rip me off and fail at it because they didn't do that, at least not as well as I have.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I know that feeling of like, hey, we do something that's awesome and then people copy us, right? This distribution piece is huge. And I think one of the mistakes I've made is we've spent so much time for LeadSnap, for instance, we spent so much time on the product and trying to make the product awesome without focusing a lot on the distribution, even though we're a marketing agency. The reverse of it, you don't necessarily, and we've seen this from our competitors where it's like, man, we have a way better product. And if we get the opportunity for someone to make a decision between us and them, we usually win. But that opportunity doesn't come up. It comes up way more often for them because they have this distribution. They focus solely on distribution. And then the product was like, well, this is like, try this. And they have people's ears. It's a smart way you were doing it where you're providing value and you're attracting people through this value, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, now you've built trust and you're like, hey, do you want more of this? Here's an opportunity for you to maybe go faster or take this out of your hands.
Yeah. One point that I would like to make on that, I don't want someone's takeaway to be that the product doesn't matter. Right. Because a lot of marketers go too far the other direction and focus just on sales and distribution and have a shit product that nobody, either they want and don't realize that they shouldn't want, or they get and are disappointed with or whatever. So I just don't want somebody to take away from that the distribution is all that.
Yeah. It's the combination of what we talked about first, where you guys are doing so much to make people jump through the hoops, and the people that have proven themselves to be the best and the most qualified to, like you said, the honor to work with your customers, combined with the fact that you have distribution that allowed this stuff to go, because you need both, right? Yeah. You need to have both. You can't be great at sales and have a shit product, or vice versa. You're gonna, especially in the agency world, you're gonna have churn. Right. Yeah. It's like people are gonna bounce. They're not gonna come back if they don't get good results.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So Chris, let's dive more into the strategies, because I know a lot of our audience that are trying to build their companies, like client acquisition is a big problem. Let's talk about some of the habits and some of the strategies that you have used to make sure that you stay top of mind and that you continue to have record-breaking months every month.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different things that go into it. One thing I've almost fought in the beginning, but I've embraced in the last few years, is how tied to the Legiit brand my name is. And I always feel cringe, as the kids say, when I talk about myself as a personal brand, but it's true. And that has worked better than anything else. It's worked better than paid ads and outreach and even SEO. And that is just being the face of the brand and just adding, I hate this term too, but adding value because it gets overused, and creating that and just constantly being in people's face. We were in an event, what you said, 3 weeks ago, whatever it was. And the most common thing is I see you every time I'm on Reddit, like, Chad, he's like, every single time I open Reddit, I see you. And then like, I put that into my presentation and then he was watching and he brought up Reddit and there it was, like me on his Reddit with an ad. So I do a lot of organic content because I want to happen to enjoy it, which is a nice plus. But also because it gets people in your face. It's why I do appearances like this. So I feel like I'm drifting away from your question. Can you?
Yeah. you're not drifting away from it. You're hitting an aspect of it. So we're talking about like how we can stay top of mind and gain visibility for client acquisition.
You have to let people know what you do. For whatever reason, a lot of people are, I don't know if they're ashamed or they don't want to or whatever reason, but I can go to a lot of agency owners like personal Facebook and learn more about their political positions than I can about what their agency does. And that's a problem. And you don't have to make it all business. Like you can still be a person, but you should focus every piece of information that's available to you or available about you around your business so people know it and they can then know that when they need whatever you do, it doesn't even have to be agencies necessarily, but that's what we're talking about, is that you're the SEO for dentists agency. Like make that a common thing that you talk about. You should be proud of that. Like if you're doing a good job, you should be telling people about it, even if they're not potential clients, although that's who you want to reach. You need to be telling people all the time what you do so that when they need someone or they know that needs someone, that's who comes to mind. And you have to stay in front of their face all the time. And there's a lot of different like technical strategies and we can get into that. But ultimately, you have to tie yourself to what you do so much that nobody thinks of anybody else when it comes to that.
Right. So let's go into some of the strategies around that. What does that mean? How are we're posting content? So posting content, my agency, we focus on concrete. So we're posting content with maybe case studies, testimonials around concrete, strategies that concrete people can use. Maybe we're looking for ideal clients on the different social media platforms and then making friend requests with them.
Yeah.
Maybe send them a message so that they see our content. Is this some of the ideas that you mean?
Yeah, that's some of it. So I'm going to use Facebook as the example because that's the one I've had the most success with, but find like 2 or 3 platforms that work for you and go all in on those. And if you have a big enough team, go in on all of them. And Alex Hormozy has a big enough team that he can be on all of them. I don't. So I focus on Facebook because maybe that's just my age group and that's what I get, and YouTube for the most part. But your personal Facebook is, first of all, as opposed to a page. That's one thing that a lot of entrepreneurs and particularly agency owners get wrong. But create your personal Facebook as if it were a landing page about your business. Cover photo with a picture of you, waist up, and then something that helps who you serve with a link to something that people can download in the description or the caption or whatever they call it. Professional headshot. Turn on, like they have a thing called professional mode, which is where it functions kind of like a page, but it's still a personal profile. Bio that tells people what you do. You'd only get like 80 characters there, so you have to be right to the point. Don't do that. I help X get more Y and Z, that bullshit. People see right through that. But have it be clear what you do. And again, give them a link to do that. And then you have the option for a pinned post. I actually went out and hired a local like videography agency. I don't think that's the right term, but you get me. And shot like the trailer for Chris M. Walker, the movie, which sounds incredibly pompous, but that's basically what it was. It's like introducing people to me, and then like the content of that reveals to me. And again, call to action in it. Then you have to there's like a couple different types of content that you need. Well, there's 3 really. There's like, I call it power content, which is stuff that just gets you in people's feed. And that can be like, yesterday, for example, it's good timing. I made a post that said, $1 million a year is only $348 a day. Lock in.
I saw that post.
See? And the whole point of that was, that's obviously not accurate. And it gives people an opportunity to do one of their favorite things in the world, and that is correct you. And what that does is that gets a lot of comments and a lot of engagement, and it gets you into people's feed. So the point isn't to sell with that post, it's just to get you in people's feed. So I do a lot of stuff like that. Another one of those that works really well is I got ChatGPT to act as the X, and these 5 prompts changed Y forever. And then you just give them, and you can use ChatGPT to even make those up, but those do really well. And then there's the comment to get my free thing post. So create like a lead magnet or use AI to develop a tool, like a simple tool or something that people want, and say, I've just built this thing, and they take a screenshot of it. Do you want comment if you want it? And then like for the first few comments, you just DM them the thing. And then after a while, that gets to be too hectic. So you just can paste it, but those take off really well. But the point of all of those, and one other one I like to do is just a controversial thing where it's like, Mac versus PC, where everybody's going to give you their opinion on it. Doesn't matter what side you have on it. Just again, that just all of these, the idea of these is not to sell things necessarily, or even sell yourself. It's to make you show up when the stuff that you do want to sell them is. Then you can go into like the pillar content, which is, and it's kind of hard to explain without visuals, but it's basically like authority content, storytelling content, and like just straight up offer content where you like, it's valuable. And then you ask them to do something, whether it's DM you or fill out your form or book a call or whatever, but combine that with like some professional pictures. And it won't get as much engagement. Usually every once in a while you'll hit one that out of the park, but what it will do is build authority and get you leads and sales. And I have like a whole 7-day structure I do on that. And those are the ones that make sales. And then you can do semi-personal content. Like I have this thing whenever I fly, I pretend like I bought like all 3 seats in my row, and I take a picture of it and say, this way nobody can sit next to me. And then, or every time I get my haircut, I take the exact same picture. These are like little inside jokes you have with the people that follow you regularly that make them appreciate you more and see you as a human being. But it also like helps with keeping them going. And then there are groups. If you have your own group, posting a bunch of like questions with the big purple background that the text has. That's what I always use. That's the only text type of post that works, by the way. And just be like, for example, you and I are both in SEO. It can be things like, do backlinks still work in 2025? Something simple like that gets people to comment. That goes towards your personal profile too. So your personal profile will show up more. And by doing all of these things, you are constantly, your face is constantly in their feed. And this is just one platform. And just doing this, I get between 1 and 3 million views a month on my personal Facebook, and tons of leads and sales and, all the other things. And like, I don't focus on it nearly as much as I should. And so if I did, I could really blow this thing up. That's part 1. That's the first half. What you've done now is I told you to have a call to action for people to do. I like that to be some sort of website where you can capture their email and get them in a retargeting list. So just a simple landing page, push this button to get my free whatever. That gets you their email address, and it gets you in retargeting. And you can do retargeting on so many platforms. You can do it on Meta, so Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Quora, Reddit, others that I'm forgetting, Pinterest. But what you do is, if you have a pixel or whatever method they have, and all of them have that, Quora is one that I think is really funny. But then you can create just a simple video that says, hey, thanks for checking out my thing. Here's my other thing. Or, hey, thank you for visiting my site, or whatever. It's very, very simple, whatever, 30-second reel. I have those all over the internet. If you visit Legiit once, you are going to see my face for the rest of your life. And that's on purpose. And that way it's always at the top of mind. And the way that you know that all of that is working is when people start saying, oh my God, I'm so sick of seeing your face. I'm so sick of seeing your ads. I see your ad. When people start complaining, that means it's working. And then I've mentioned that you collect their email as well. You email them every single day. Sometimes it's just value. Sometimes it's an offer. Sometimes it's a piece of content you put out, like a video or something. And what you've done now is taking you from somebody that nobody's ever heard of and nobody has any idea what you do, into omnipresence is what I call it. I'm actually putting together a training called the Omnipresence Engine that kind of goes through this whole process. But you've taken yourself from being completely obscure to the point where people are so sick of seeing you that you're like the Taylor Swift of what you do. That's probably a bad analogy, but it's the only celebrity I could think of.
It's okay to be a T Swift fan, man.
But I kind of rambled there, but that's kind of the whole process.
I love it. I love this, the omnipresence part of it. The hard part is not in the technical pieces of it. It's in the consistency, right? Mm-hmm. This is where I think people struggle with this. And the good news is, if that's the problem, like, that's something we can all do. Like, it's not requiring more brain power. It's not requiring like us to be better at sales, better looking, taller, stronger, whatever.
I got to bring taller into it.
Hey,
I'm just kidding.
We're both sitting down, but so it's just something we can all do. It's just a commitment. It's just keeping that commitment on a daily basis, right? And
And I actually have come up with a way to make that part of it simpler because it is a lot to come up with new stuff every day. I don't want to like yada yada over that. There's a 90s reference for some of you out there, but
It's not fun.
but I have come up with a way to train a custom GPT it works better in Claude. I think they call them projects. That's not a very good name, but they should be called something other than projects. But projects to make it sound like 90% of the way of sounding like you. Like as like an interview, like you can interview, you go through, and you upload the knowledge into it, and like tell it to make you a post on this topic, and you just have to change out like some of the facts, and it'll sound just like you.
Can you give us a little more insight into that process? If somebody wanted to try to do that, like how could they get started?
I can give you the exact. I don't know if you have like this will be on the channel or something, but I'll give you the exact.
I can share the show notes.
Yeah, I'll give you all that. But just kind of how it works is there is a really long I use Chat GPT to do it because I just find it has a better interface. But it's a really long prompt, and it interviews you and asks you questions about your background and your values and who you are and what you've done, and it's really in depth. And then it does that, and then it does the same thing for your business. And then it also tries to get like your tone and your style guide. And it's as if they're interviewing you. And when it's done, it creates 4 different documents that you then download. And then if you create a custom GPT, and I'm sorry if that's over anybody's skill level, just Google it if not. But create a custom GPT.
Use ChatGPT to help you.
Yeah, exactly. Create a custom GPT or a project in Claude, or I'm sure Gemini has something like this too. But you create that, and you upload those as the knowledge for it. And then you can go into those and say, hey, Chris Writer, that's what I called mine because I'm super creative. Create me a post on discipline. And then in Claude, you can actually go a step further, and they have, I think they call them templates or something like that, styles, something like that, where you can create like, here's a template for this type of post. And then it will use that type of template for a post in your voice and create something just like you. The only thing you have to like be aware of is it tends to make up facts if you haven't given it enough. So just like edit it a little bit, but that speeds up the process by like 90%. You basically cloned yourself.
Yeah. We actually did a training very similar to this in our coaching program, Rank Masters, where we call it Second Brain, and you're going through, you're sharing a lot of the stories. We encourage people as a part of this process to, if there's an interview, if they've been on a podcast where they shared their story, download it, get the transcript, and use that as a like seed document for this, where it can like pick up your tone. Any posts that you've made, personal stories that have changed who you are, some of your favorite books, your business philosophies, quotes, stuff like this. And we call it the Second Brain, but that's the idea, is that you can have someone, you can have the machine helping you create this content where it doesn't always have to be on you.
Yeah. Yeah. I like envy people that are coming up in the industry now. Cause like, as recently as like 2021, we had to think all that shit ourselves.
Right. You and I come from the generation where we had to walk uphill both ways in the snow with no shoes. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, for real though, like they don't realize the advantages they have on top. Like, you can put out a 10,000 word article in 5 minutes with ChatGPT, and just content wise, like the content now that's available now. I talk about digging through the Warrior Forum. Like Alex Hormozi now puts out stuff that you don't get in college for free.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It's also kind of this unique time frame where there's been a good amount of adoption to this stuff, but most of the world hasn't adopted to it, but it is available. So you can set yourself apart from the majority of people by taking advantage, which is here, which is like, honestly, almost free. Like like $20 a month for ChatGPT's
best investment you can ever make. Like, even if you're not in business,
Yeah. Absolutely. So you've shared a lot of the parts of building up your social brand. What other insights do you have towards this kind of visibility for people?
Algorithms are like stray kittens. If you stop feeding them, they'll stop coming back. So you have to keep feeding, and you want it to come back. Maybe you don't want a stray kitten to keep coming back. So it's not a perfect analogy. But
this is dual advice here. For you've got a stray kitten problem and algorithm simultaneously.
But yeah, you have to keep at it. Like, I know it sucks to have to, like, agency owners, no offense, I know that's some of your audience is some of mine too, but they're super lazy a lot of the time, and they just don't want to keep posting every day. They act like that's a chore.
They're lazy in certain directions, it seems like.
Yeah. Not overall. I'm not commenting on their overall like like ethic, but when it comes to promoting themselves, they're super lazy. Especially if they get like a good referral business going, they want to rely just on that. And to me, that's I'm getting a bit off track, but that's a path to doom, because like one day there's a pandemic, and if you're relying completely on referrals, you've got nothing. If you can take your foot off the gas, you're going to get screwed eventually. So try to get as much as you can, as often as you can, and to the point where if you don't have enough business that your business is breaking, you're not trying hard enough.
Right. So, right. Break the business, and you'll like spend more of your time figuring out how to break the business and then how to fix it and then re-break it. Right. So Chris Moore, who you met at the SEO spring training, he's my business partner in the in Rank Masters, and he has a training that he calls 7 Ways to Win, where it's like every business that he's invested in, he's got like 30 businesses, and he wants to have 7 different ways to win. So like if referrals are one, maybe paid ads are another, like organic can be a third. Like there has to be 7 different ways to bring people in, right? You don't want to have a 3-legged stool where like you lose a leg and then like it's no longer a stool, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like COVID, I keep going back to COVID as the obvious example of that, but there are people that had 100-year-old businesses that hadn't done advertising in 50 years and were out of business in 2 months because the world flipped a switch.
Everything changed.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's this idea, especially the older generations, where it's like, hey, this is the way I've always done it, and it's always worked. It's like, hey, the whole world has changed. A lot of people can say that don't have businesses anymore, like Blockbuster, Redbox, like all these different places. Like Circuit City refused to go online.
I worked at Circuit City. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they were like this massive company, and then they were gone. We're in a time period right now, especially if you watched the episode from last week with Brian Hansen. If you haven't watched it, I encourage you to watch that. We talk specifically about how the world is changing. Every 20 to 30 years, there's this massive shift.
Yeah.
And I don't know that, like, maybe when the internet came around, it's hard to say that. Like,
before the one, I just to illustrate at a smaller level, like in 2020 up to 2021, our second biggest category after SEO was content writing. And literally from the month that ChatGPT came out, I can watch that, like our content sales plummet to where it's almost nothing now.
Right.
So
second biggest gone.
Yeah.
It's just this software came out and just removed that. I think we had 5 content writers in my agency, and we basically fired all of them and hired an editor who just works with AI content now. Right. Like, just like they didn't do anything wrong.
No, but when you can type a sentence into ChatGPT and get as good or better result, it's kind of hard to justify paying someone. Like,
right. Yeah.
Sometimes our freelancers come to me and like, what should a content writer do to make money in 2025? I was like, build a time machine. You're basically starting a newspaper in 1999. Is what you're doing. So
learn a new skill, right?
Yeah. And I feel bad for them. Like, I get it, but it not being fair doesn't change the reality of it.
Right. That's not how the world works.
Yeah.
This is how it is. And like, there's no challenging it. This is just, it's the reality of it. Right.
Yeah. And you can pivot. Like, for example, I was just playing with the new Google AI. I don't even remember the name of it. VO3 or something. I was playing with that right before we signed on. I was like, this must have been what it's like. This will be the skill that like graphics and video creators have to have in the future, is working that. And I wonder if it was what it was like when Photoshop came out. And I mean, like before that, graphic design was something you did with your hand. And like that, now it's like what you do in Photoshop. So I'm wondering if that's kind of the evolution, but that's off topic.
Yeah. That's the way it is in every like business sector though, too, is like AI software is coming out that's just going to reset the playing field completely. Right. It's just how it is. And like you said, it may not be fair, but it is the way it is. And that might not be what you want to hear, but it doesn't matter. It is the way it is. There's people that were upset when cars started taking off that had a really good business selling horse carriages. It's just like, sorry, that's the way it is. We're at the end of our time here. I got 2 final questions for you here. Number one, like what's the best way if somebody's interested in connecting with you more? How can they do that?
If you have a business or you are a freelancer, please check out Legiit, 2 eyes, because 1 eye wasn't enough. The real reason is that the one I domain was just absurdly expensive.
But as we would expect, and I'm sure it's only more expensive now.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you want to connect with me directly, Facebook and just like I mentioned, and YouTube are probably the most. I'm on all the socials, but those are the two that I am most active on. So just search Chris M. Walker. The M is important because there was a one-hit wonder in the 90s named Chris Walker. And if you Google Chris Walker, he's who you're going to find. So
yeah. Also, he's friends with me. So if you wanted to go and find me,
yeah,
that's an easy way to connect with Chris. Chris, what final words do you have for our audience here?
Whatever you're doing, think how much more you could do and how much bigger you can take it, because you're capable of much more than you realize. Our slogan at Legiit is think big, partly because I've been inspired a lot in my life by Steve Jobs, and his was, think different. And it's kind of an homage to that, but that's how we try to think of it. Our goal is, for example, at Legiit is to have every single business on earth using our platform. Is that attainable? Probably not. But that, with that goal in mind, that's how we make our decisions. Does it get us closer to that goal? So whatever you're doing with your agency or your business or whatever, think bigger, think big, try to 100x it, 1000x it, do more than you think you can. And there's no downside to that. It'll pay off for you.
I love it. It's kind of along this idea is you're setting your own ceiling. Where do you want it to be? You get to decide where that's at. So great advice. I love this. I think so many people sell themselves short because of what their perception of the world thinks of them, or what they've been conditioned. They have their own limitations, and it's a great message. So Chris, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate you being here and sharing tons of value here. So always a pleasure, and I always learn something from you. So thank you so much for being a guest on the $1 Million Agency Podcast.
Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.